Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're standing in a hallway washed with storm light. Wind threading rain through the porch screen while a clock ticks like a calm metronome for frightened hearts. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And in the comments, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I like seeing our little constellation of night owls. Now, turn off the lights. Maybe let a fan hum in the background. And let's begin tonight's journey together. At 3:20 a.m., the door did not simply knock. It trembled 3 short bursts. A pause. Then 2 more. As if the wind itself had learned my daughter's rhythm of panic. I lifted the latch and found Lena in the doorway. Soaked hair plastered to her temples. Mascara drawn like small bruises under each eye. She didn't say Mom. She said my name from childhood. A softer syllable I thought was retired May. Her lips were pale. Can I? And then the sentence ran out of gas. Inside, I said. And the word was a blanket. I tugged her into the foyer, shut the door against the storm's teeth, and wrapped her in the wool coat that has saved more evenings than soup. She shook the way people shake when heat feels suspicious. Breathe with me, I said, counting quietly 4 in. 6 out the way a lighthouse counts for ships. She matched me on the 3rd try, like a violin tuning to a nearby piano. While the kettle gathered courage on the stove, I set the house to triage. Towels on the chair, socks from the dryer, a mug lined with honey. Because kindness should begin at the mouth. She held the mug with both hands as if it might bolt. He left me, she said at last. Voice like gravel. At Halter Creek rest stop, in the blizzard. Said I needed a lesson in respect. The storm outside found a new register. Lower, angrier. Inside me, something iron slid into place and refused to rattle. Lena and I have not always played the same song. There were years where I counted measures alone, leaving space for her to come in. But blood remembers, and skin remembers, and a mother's ear knows when a child's voice is carrying bruises the mouth refuses to name. Start with the last 10 minutes, I said. We'll widen the circle after the kettle approves. She told it in stripped snow, thick as wool, a fight about money that wasn't missing until it was. A phone snatched for safety, then that stop fluorescence humming, coffee bitter, his smile too wide. Caleb, her husband, at least by vow, had taken the keys to cool off. Then simply never cooled back. He said he'd loop around. He looped into the storm. She swallowed. I waited an hour. My fingers went dumb. A trucker gave me hot chocolate and a phone. I called 3 numbers on muscle memory. Only 1 picked up. She glanced toward my old landline, which has the manners of a grandparent and the stubbornness to ring when the cell towers sulk. I wanted to stand, stomp, dial, declare. Instead, I listened to the full hour hide inside 5 minutes. Men who teach respect with exposure weather. Silence. Paperwork favor classrooms with no witnesses. We're going to warm you up. And then we'll get facts, I said. You're cold now. Facts hate cold. That coaxed a tiny laugh. Brittle, but honest. First small joke of the night. In this kitchen. Even the truth gets a hot drink. She sipped. Mom, I think he took the money. Not the usual money. Her own an inheritance my sister left when the world tilted last summer. I went to buy road salt this afternoon, and the account said insufficient funds. I thought it was a glitch. We argued. He said I was confused again. The word again wore boots. Cards? Passwords? I asked, keeping my voice like a soft road. She shook her head. He helped me set them up. I loved the help. It was faster. It turns out it was a funnel. We dried her hair with an old t-shirt that still smelled faintly of the porch in July. I placed my palm against her cheek and counted 1 full minute To be certain warmth was not pretending. When her hands stopped shaking, we began the inventory. Phone dead from cold. I let mine stand in. Purse here, keys missing, banking app locked. I can guess the pattern, I said. When we call, we'll use mine. When we visit, we'll bring a folder. Quirky sidebar heated steering wheels were invented for luxury. But statistically, they keep more people from white-knuckling into ditches than any pep talk. Comfort isn't the enemy of grit. It's the partner that keeps you from using all your courage before noon. The kitchen's heat worked like that thawing enough feeling to let thinking sit down without breaking the chair. We called the bank's overnight line, blessed be their round-the-clock boredom. Unusual activity, the woman confirmed. Reading kindness into policy. $37,000 in transfers, each wrapped in notes that looked like attention investment. Tuition, taxes. I asked for holds and flags and a list of destinations. She obliged. A new name surfaced that was not on our family tree, Marina Hale. The transfers fed an account that fed a real estate purchase, cash and address in Wisconsin. Winter still town with a lake that remembered ships. Lena stared at me. He said Marina was a cousin. Every story has cousins, I said. But not every cousin gets a deed. Elder wisdom reflection. When a person shows you a pattern, control. Vanish. Control again, write it down. Even if your heart begs for an exception. Love is not obligated to believe what only happens in apologies. Believe what repeats. Patterns are maps. They show where the ice is thin. We called the rest stop to thank the trucker, left a note with the clerk, and asked if the camera saw a silver SUV forget its promise. The clerk promised a manager at 8. I wrote Halter Creek, 8 a.m., and underlined it twice. The ink making a little bridge I meant to cross. We should call the police, Lena whispered. We will, I said, right after we call Hector. She blinked, remembering the retired cop I once helped with sandwiches and sleep during a long winter stakeout. Some kindnesses return with a badge. Academic phrase of the day, coercive control. A public term for patterns of isolation. Surveillance. And financial strangling used to shrink a person's life until they live only where permission lives. Laws in some states now recognize it. In kitchens. We recognize it sooner the house gets quiet, the phone lies, the passwords multiply like locks on the wrong doors. At 4:30, I dialed Hector. He picked up in 2 rings. The way men do when insomnia becomes a vocation, May, he said. Voice sanded down by years. Say where. I told him where. I'll bring a thermos and an old favor, he said, and bolt cutters if metaphors become literal. The wind recited its recital on the siding. Lena leaned just a fraction against my shoulder. He said I was dramatic, she whispered. He said storms make me see things that aren't there. I kissed her hair. Storms make what was there harder to ignore, I said. They don't invent doors. They rattle the loose ones. Second small joke. A mercy-sized one if drama means arriving at your mother's in a blizzard for tea. We'll frame the certificate. She breathed something like a laugh, the timid twin of relief, when the kettle yawned again. I topped us off and fetched the folder I keep for days that mean business line pads. A pen that forgives crossings out, sticky notes in neon that vote for clarity, and the envelope of phone numbers I treat like talismans. We wrote names, times, amounts. The story began to hold still under labels. Mom, she said, voice steadier. Why aren't you yelling? I stroked her knuckles the way I used to soothe fever-slow circles. Patient heat. Because yelling is a sprint, and this is a marathon, I said. We will need breath for the miles. Third joke. Soft as we could make it. Also, the neighbors already think I'm mysterious. No need to become a podcast. She snorted. and that sound, my favorite unglamorous music, made the room gain 3 degrees. By 5:30, the storm demoted itself to a quarrel. Dawn suggested itself behind the blinds. I gave Lena the guest room with the quilt my grandmother pieced from dresses that survived bigger nights than this. "Sleep," I said. "I'll keep watch." She hesitated. "What if he comes?" I pointed to the lock and the chain and the part of me that had turned to iron. "He won't get what he came for." The house settled in, old bones easing, in the quiet. I wrote one more line beneath our list, the line I always wished someone had written for me when I was young and brave and cornered. "You are not the storm. You are the person who got home in it." Hector arrived just after 6, the storm sulking itself into sleet. He stood on my porch like a winter tree in a good coat, holding a thermos and a paper bag that turned out to be breakfast sandwiches with the kind of pepper that wakes decisions. "Morning, May," he said to me, and to Lena morning. "Ma'am, you did the right thing." People confuse dramatic with accurate when the weather refuses to flatter them. His eyes were cop quiet, the kind that inventory a room without making you feel inventoried. We spread our folder on the kitchen table, the one that has survived spelling tests and tax seasons. Hector listened to Lena's timeline like it was a radio transmission from a ship we intended to bring back. He didn't interrupt until she said. He took my phone for safety and the keys. Then he murmured, almost to himself, "Permission dressed as protection," and wrote it down. He asked for Caleb's details: height, car, habits, friends who are favors. Lena supplied what she could: silver SUV, winter tires new because he liked speed. A cousin named Marina who never attended holidays but somehow sent gift cards. "First steps," Hector said. "Bank fraud, obviously. We'll also get a wellness check request on Caleb, no accusations yet, just formal interest. And we go to Halter Creek. Cameras don't argue, not even with blizzards." He sipped my bad coffee like it had earned a medal. "Also, change your locks later. It's not paranoia if the key proves disloyal." We phoned the bank at 8 sharp, this time to the fraud department with the fancy hold music. Lena authorized me to speak. I spoke like a woman who had learned to put pillows under hard facts. "We see a device change and a password reset 3 weeks ago," the analyst said, keys clacking like castanets. Location: Madison, Wisconsin. New payee set up Hale Home Services. Transfers totaling $37,000. Memo lines: tuition and investment. Tuition for whom? Investment in what? The words did that thing words do when they try to wear good suits to a crime. I asked for the obvious holds. Reversals. The fraud packet sent to my email in a format that didn't require young thumbs and then asked for the less obvious a record of IP addresses, device IDs, the timestamps we could introduce to a detective later. "You sound organized," the analyst said. A compliment that felt like a hand on a shoulder. "It helps to be believed," I replied. We drove to Halter Creek in Hector's truck. Heater set to January repentance. The rest stop looked as I expected: fluorescent honesty. A coffee counter that overpromised. A bulletin board with lost cats and found gloves. The manager, a woman named Rio with hair like a decisive flag, met us by the security door. I reviewed the feed. She said, "Because my job is mostly coffee and kindness, and I like relevant excitement." She cued the video. There was Lena, small in a large coat, hands tucked, waiting. There was Caleb, tall, handsome in a way that photographs forgive too easily, walking out with 2 coffees and the keys swinging like punctuation. He kissed her on the temple, performative gentleness, and walked toward the SUV. He didn't look back. The car backed out, signaled, of course he signaled, and merged into a white that erased. "Timestamp," Hector asked. Rio amended the footage with digital clarity.
1:44 a.m. Lena arrived on camera at 1:46. Caleb's car did not return in the next 2 hours. A semi pulled in at 2:39. A driver in a knit cap handed a hot chocolate to a woman with shaking hands. Bless him. I felt my jaw unclench around a prayer I hadn't liked. "Can I get a copy?" Hector asked. Rio nodded. "On a drive if you have one?" Hector, who was born ready, produced a thumb drive with the impassive face of a small sword. "Also," Rio added. The outside camera caught his plates. "They're clean, for now." I thought. Clean is sometimes just a pause. Back in the truck. Lena sat very straight and spoke in careful weather. "He staged the kindness," she said. "The coffee. The kiss." I said nothing, because sometimes silence in the cab is a balm. Hector cleared his throat. "Staging is a tell," he said. "Men who intend to be believed set the scene and leave props. It doesn't fix the story, it just gives us better exhibits." He drove with both hands, a sermon about control without the sermon. By late morning, we were at our local precinct. The desk sergeant, whose face looked carved from the same granite as my countertops, took our statement and attached words like abandonment at rest stop and financial exploitation suspected. He didn't say domestic, but the form said it for him. He asked about protection orders. "Soon," I said. "Today we're faxing Sunshine. Light joke 1, barely salted." He gave me a look that understood puns did not dilute intent. We filed the online fraud reports next, 1 federal, 1 state. Both hungry portals with appetites for numbers and scanned in the bank logs. Hector drafted a short letter to the county DA, not accusatory, just a gentle flag that said, "A man left his wife at 1:44 a.m. in a blizzard, and now her inheritance is moving north." He signed it with his retired batch number and a sentence that made me love bureaucracy for 5 whole minutes. "Please preserve footage." Preservation is a kind of love that courts understand. Quirky sidebar, the humble fax confirmation page, the one with grainy black bars that looks like a bad weather map, gets unusual respect in court. Email can be lost. Servers misbehave. But show a judge a stamped fax confirmation and watch eyebrows rise like the national anthem just started. Paper likes to flirt with permanence. We printed and stapled and labeled until the folder smelled faintly of toner and resolve. At home, Lena slept. Hector and I took inventory of doors, windows, and the lockbox where my spare key had lived too optimistically. "We'll rehome this," he said, and tucked it into his coat with the tenderness people reserve for worn wallets and old dogs. He opened his notebook. "Tell me about Marina." I recited what Google and gossip had taught me last night for a woman with a real estate license. A fondness for lake houses. Photos that glowed with indirect lighting and moral ambiguity. Her last name, he prompted. "Hale." He nodded. "And the Wisconsin address," I told him. He wrote. Underlined. Folded the page into a pocket that had seen many folded pages. "You'll likely need a private investigator who can travel with fewer apologies than a cop," he said. "You still know Jonah Pike." Jonah, a lean man with a nose for the cupboard where trouble hangs its hat. "I do," I said. "He thinks in maps." Hector grinned. "Good, this is a 2-state story. Maps like that." He stood, stretched, and took his leave with a promise to walk this by a friendly detective who owed him a poker debt and a winter favor. Lena woke at 2, pale but threaded back to herself. We ate soup that pretended not to be leftovers and set up a whiteboard because sometimes large rectangles make fear obey. We wrote timeline at the top and let the hours line up like well-behaved ducks. 1:44. Caleb exits. 1:46, Lena enters. 2:39, truck driver kindness. 3:20 door knock. 8 ORO manager call. 10:15 bank fraud. Noon police report. 12:45 fax. 2:10 Jonah texted available. A day that had felt like lightning now looked like staccato lights leading out of a tunnel. Academic phrase of the day: schema, our brain's way of organizing the world into patterns so we can predict what comes next. Abusers exploit this. They build a schema where help means control and protection means surveillance. Today, we began rewriting the schema in this house. Help involves sandwiches and forms. Protection involves locks and witnesses. Love involves no choreography with missing cars. We laughed once, even twice. Joked too when the whiteboard pen died. I declared a state funeral and played a 2-second dirge on my phone. Lena rolled her eyes and said, "You always did believe in ceremony." Joke 3 when the bank's fraud portal asked us to describe the suspect's occupation. I said, "He's in acquisitions." And we both agreed that was too accurate to be funny. Elder wisdom reflection: when your story shatters. Collect the shards in labeled boxes before you attempt art. People will urge you toward healing like it's a race. It isn't. Inventory first. Heal on the way. Then, later. If you want, make a mosaic. It won't be the same plate. It might be something that holds light better. By evening, the sleet had softened to a tired rain. I made tea. Lena leaned against the doorframe, less like a person ready to run, more like a person considering chairs. "I should have seen it," she said. The stage kindness, the cousin with receipts. I shook my head. "You saw the storm and came home through it," I said. "That's the only test we grade." My phone chimed Jonah. "Got your note," he wrote. "Hector says bring bolt cutters and pastries. I'll bring both. See you at dawn." I texted back, "Bring a map," in a calm voice. He replied with a photo of a compass and a croissant. I permitted myself one extravagant hope that tomorrow would make sense faster than today. Before bed, I set 2 mugs on the counter. Sugar in one because future me forgets where sweetness hides. I wrote a note to the night in my notebook. We are not auditioning for belief. We're documenting, and under it, in smaller letters, a reminder for the version of me that wakes at 3, locks changed soon. Keys will learn new manners. The house breathed, the weather apologized, a truck passed, unhurried. I turned off the kitchen light and let the whiteboard glow faintly with the reflected snow. A quiet promise that tomorrow had a place to start. Jonah arrived at dawn with a paper bag of pastries that smelled like a vote for civilization and a canvas roll of tools that made the air sit up straighter. He's the sort of man who blends into a lobby plant until the moment subtlety is done being useful. "Hector says you need a map and a voice," he said. Placing the croissants on the table and the compass on my notebook, I brought both. Plus a pencil that doesn't smudge when truth gets damp. We reviewed the whiteboard until it stopped pretending to be random. Lena watched, one hand wrapped around a mug, the other around herself. "He made me feel like I was bad at life," she said quietly, like my memory had frayed. Jonah nodded as if he were listening to a weather report he already knew. "That's part of the uniform," he said. "They issue it with the love-bombing compliments that turn into instructions." First task, identity. Jonah started with the soft pry. "Do we have a clean copy of the marriage certificate, any application forms?" We did. I keep a drawer for documents that imagine their future in court. He scanned the QR codes with the bored grace of a librarian. "The signatures are consistent," he murmured. "But the birthplace he listed is a vanishing act." He tapped the DMV record Hector had helped pull. Caleb's license was real. Renewed last year, but the earliest trail began only 6 years ago. As if he'd been minted at 31 like a commemorative coin. "Men like this often have an older name that wore out," Jonah said. "Let's see what the seams reveal." He called a colleague who lives in the gray strip between public record and polite privacy while we waited. He drew a map our city, aligned to Madison. A lake house icon with a question mark and a small asterisk
where Halter Creek learned to forgive last night. Hector's right, this is interstate. That's good. Interstate means more letters with stamps and fewer feelings pretending to be rules. Quirky sidebar, the phrase cold case doesn't mean a case is dead. It means it's resting in a fridge where evidence keeps its crispness until someone hungry for answers opens the door. Paper, like lettuce, can wilt. But a neat stack in a cool drawer, it can outlast swagger. I label my folders the way restaurants label prep date, contents. Who touched it last? Nothing keeps a story honest like time-stamped leftovers. At 9, Jonah's colleague called back with a nugget that behaved like a hinge. "You're Caleb," she said. "Shares a face ear patterns. Dental record hints with a Daniel Cross who popped up in a Midwestern file 12 years ago that Daniel dissolved 2 LLCs after alleged partner disputes and then erased himself like a polite ghost. Jonah covered the receiver. Eyes on us. Caleb may be Daniel," he said. Cross, as in crossing lines and state borders. He listened a moment more, jotted 2 addresses, thanked her with a profession's shorthand, "Owe you a rainy Saturday and a pastry." Lena's jaw trembled, then found its job. "So I married a performance," she said flatly. "We fall for stories," I answered, "especially the ones told in our favorite dialect attention." "The trick now is to subtitle it correctly." She nodded. "A small graduation. Academic phrase of the day, the weaponized incompetence frame. Public conversations use it to name the tactic, where a partner pretends to be bad at something budgeting. Forms. Cooking to offload labor or control outcomes. In our case. He flipped the weapon he performed competence so thoroughly. "Let me handle passwords. Paperwork. The big stuff that doubt felt like rudeness. We are allowed to be rude to a performance." Jonah outlined our play. We press on 3 fronts. 1. Financial fraud packet submitted. Bank holds. Credit freeze for you. Lena. 2. Physical locks changed. Devices scrubbed. A new number on a dumb phone that lives in a drawer, no apps. Just calls. He cannot track what doesn't participate. 3. Narrative we find Marina offline. People who pose online learn their faces in person. He glanced at me. We also build a mirror show Caleb what he wants to see long enough to get what we need. Only if you're up for it. Lena looked at her hands as if they were returning from a long trip. "If we set bait," she said. "Does that make me complicit in the story again?" "No," Jonah said. "It makes you the author now." I saw Lena's shoulders drop a centimeter, the body's way of signing a contract with itself. We began with the antiseptic chores. Credit agencies frozen. Email accounts 2-factor authentication moved to my landline because wires don't gossip. I handed Lena a little flip phone that clicks when it closes a satisfying punctuation, like saying period without raising your voice. Joke 1, tiny, and for morale, it's retro. All the cool spies are going analog. She smiled with half her mouth and the good eye crinkle, while I baked potatoes, purely so the house would smell like a life. Jonah found a photocopied lease in the marriage folder with a phone number scrawled beside landlord. He dialed and introduced himself as dryly as an invoice. 10 minutes later, we had a detail, 6 months ago. Caleb had paid 3 months' rent in cash, then moved them temporarily to a sublet closer to the highway for your commute. Babe and let the lease lapse while claiming he'd filed a new one. "Paper trails," Jonah said, "are polite until you ask them to dance. Then they tell you who they came with." Hector returned mid-morning with a detective named Patel, whose tie had earned seniority. Patel reviewed the Halter Creek footage, the bank logs, Jonah's notes, and made appreciative noises in the key of bureaucracy. "We'll open this as financial exploitation and abandonment," he said. "And I'll ping a contact in Madison about the lake address." He slid across 2 cards his email with a plus preserve footage note. and a shelter advocate's number in case coercive control needs a bench with social workers. He looked at Lena. You did the right thing. Being left is loud. Being believed should be louder.
Elder wisdom reflection. The moment you stop negotiating with someone's bad weather is the moment your forecast improves. You can bring umbrellas to their storms for years and still end up soaked. Or you can invest in good boots and walk toward home. Boots first, then weather app, then tea, in that order. Sanity returns. By lunchtime, Jonah had Marina's office address and a schedule from her website that might as well have said, "Catch me Tuesdays." We planned a visit that smelled like curiosity, but wore steel-toed shoes Lena would not go. That wasn't a boundary, it was a rule. I would go with Jonah. "You're the mother," he said. People confess to mothers and mail carriers. Before we left, Lena's phone lit with a new number, Caleb. Maybe Daniel, playing the long-distance conscience. "You ran off," he texted. "I was giving you space." Jonah's mouth twitched. Classic. He leaves you at a rest stop and texts abandonment as your verb. We crafted a reply with the restraint of surgeons. "I'm safe with family," Lena typed. "We need to discuss the transfers and the keys. I'll be in touch when I'm ready." No anger, the pudding of neutral. He responded with a paragraph about concern, seasoned with implication. We let it sit, unliked, unread aloud. Joke 2. Whispered to the kettle, he thinks he's the narrator. The kettle declined to disagree. At Marina's office, brochures glowed with photos of lakes that forgave. She appeared in a camel coat that suggested both budget and ambition. Jonah asked about a listing near the address we had. And I asked about school districts the way grandmothers do when they already know the answer. She spoke smoothly until I said the word Hale, the way you say a last name you've known longer than you should. A small flinch. Most masks are good until you ask them to drink water. "We heard you're a miracle with lake houses," I said with a smile that had paid rent in dozens of offices. "A family friend is deciding whether to downsize." She smiled back, balanced, and in the small quiet that followed, Jonah placed a business card on her desk with a subtle slide. "Jonah Pike," it read, "Investigations." Her eyes pinged, then chose poise. "Do you two want to see the property?" she asked, defaulting to the verb she could control. "We want to see the closing paperwork," Jonah said gently. "The one purchased in cash, funds trailing from an account that says tuition in the memo line." The flinch again, bigger. And then a wall of language misunderstanding. Client confidentiality, surely a mix-up. "We left before the mix-up could grow teeth. She's not the mastermind," Jonah said on the sidewalk. "She's the second act." Afternoon stretched like good dough. Back home, a message waited from Detective Patel Madison PD would sit on the lake address that evening. Strictly welfare for now. Hector texted a photo of the new locks with a caption. "Pin Kid performed miracles. Permission reassigned. I framed the croissant bag like a joke trophy. Joke 3 Exhibit B pastry that cooperated with justice." We ended the day at the table. Where slow plans live. "Tomorrow we call a lawyer about a protective order," I said. "And we ask the bank's fraud team about a provisional credit," Jonah added. "And we decide whether Lena meets him with a wire and a perimeter or whether we let the claws in your spine do the talking from a distance." Lena sipped tea and surprised us both. "I'll meet," she said, voice steady, "in a public place. You two nearby. I want to hear what story he tries to sell when the shelves are bare." Night gathered politely. I wrote one more line in the notebook before sleep could argue. We will not match his performance with our own. We will speak softly and bring receipts. The house made its approving pops. The storm had learned new manners, and somewhere to the north. A lake practiced stillness it would loan us when the time came to listen without letting the water in.
By morning, we knew the lake house was real. What we didn't know was whether the paper around it would cooperate with daylight. Records, unlike people, don't get embarrassed, only misfiled, so Jonah and I went hunting for the quiet clerks who keep counties running on paper and coffee. Lena stayed home with Hector, who was training her phone like a dog: sit, stay, don't fetch trouble. The county recorder's office lived in a brick building that had survived 3 remodels and 0 personality crises. A woman at the counter name tagged Dolores. Cardigan with tiny owls looked at our request over the rims of glasses that had seen both scams and love stories. Parcel number, she asked. Jonah slid it forward. Closing date within the last 60 days, he added. Dolores nodded with the slow satisfaction of a person about to find a file. We like fresh paper, she said, and vanished behind a swinging door that whispered in triplicate. She returned with a thin folder and the air of a magician who prefers the reveal to applause. Warranty deed seller to buyer, cash, buyer 1, Marina Hale, trustee. For the benefit of an unnamed trust. No mortgage recorded. That checked with our bank's melancholy printouts. Then, the small hinge, we needed an affidavit of identity signed by Caleb Forrester, stating he had no legal interest in the property, only assisted with logistics. Jonah tapped the notary seal. Logistics, he murmured, is a very broad church. We asked for certified copies. Dolores produced a stamp the size of a confident sandwich and thumped legitimacy into the margins. If there's wire fraud, the DA will want the closing statement, she advised. Title company keeps it. They're on 3rd. I slid a thank you note across the counter, a gift card to the coffee place. Everyone pretends isn't excellent. For the files that don't grow legs, I said. She smiled. Owl Cardigan approving. We prefer wings anyway. At the title office, a man named Ben with a tie patterned like small buoys asked how he could be helpful while calculating precisely how unhelpful he legally needed to be. Jonah let him perform the usual duet privacy. Client information. Policy, then hummed Harmony police report numbers, fraud case reference, and Detective Patel's card. Watching 2 professionals negotiate boundaries with paperwork is like watching fencers discuss fencing while fencing. Eventually, Ben conceded that a subpoena would unlock the closing statement. But he could confirm, hypothetically, that funds arrived from a mid-bank account ending 1442 and that the buyer had insisted on speed. People think speed is security, he said, then caught himself. Hypothetically. Quirky sidebar, a notary seal doesn't verify truth. It verifies that a human showed up with a face, a pen, and an ID that seemed plausible at the time. It's like attendance for signatures. Yes. This autograph sat in this chair at 10:14 a.m. Helpful, not holy. Adults often confuse stamps with sacraments. Clerks do not. We stepped outside into a wind that had opinions. Jonah made 3 calls in a row, one to Patel requesting the subpoena, one to his colleague to scrape corporate filings for Hale and Trust, and one to Hector to update our chessboard while he talked. My phone vibrated. A text from Lena. He messaged again. People are asking questions. You're making me look bad. I typed back. When you're ready, reply. Facts make themselves. Then put the phone down and eat the muffin with blueberries. Blueberries are witnesses. A beat later, done. Blueberries cooperating. Academic phrase of the day. Affinity fraud. The public argument that con artists borrow the trust embedded in families, churches, clubs, or friend groups to move money faster than skepticism. They speak fluent us, distribute favors like appetizers, and cash out before anyone compares notes. Regulators warn about it. Grandmothers translate it as, if he needs secrecy to protect the group needs protection from him. Jonah's colleague called back with brittle news wrapped in usefulness. Trust is new, she said. Name is Bland Olive Lake Family Trust. Trustee Hale,
No EIN yet, but your Daniel Cross, if that's who Caleb is, shows up on a dissolved LLC with a marina 12 years ago. Lost a civil case, judgment unpaid. He changed states within the month. Jonah hung up, eyebrows lifting by 1 millimeter. Old partners, new masks, he said. He graduates identities like grades. We drove back to my house with the heater set to tell me your secrets. Hector had taught Lena to use the little flip phone like a talisman, call out only. Never answer unknowns, let voicemail collect the performances. He'd also texted a photo of my new deadbolt with the caption, "House learned new manners." I like when objects learn. We laid the certified copies on the table. Lena read each line with the angry calm of someone discovering the cliff was marked on the map the whole time. He stood next to paper that said he had nothing to do with the house he bought with my money. She said evenly, "He called it logistics." I nodded. That's how theft dresses for brunch. Joke one small. To oxygenate the room, on the bright side, we've confirmed he knows what logistics means. Jonah made a noise that could be filed under chuckle or threat. We're about to upgrade his vocabulary to consequences, he said. We sketched the next move. Marina would likely call Caleb Daniel after our visit. He would likely call Lena with a fresh script, remorse meets reason. The duet no one requested. We needed a meet on our terms public, recorded, bounded by clocks and eyes. I'll wear the wire, Lena said, before anyone could suggest otherwise. She looked at me. Not for permission, those years are done, but for alignment. We only do it if all the exits are ours, I said. You sit closest to the door, Jonah nearby, Hector watching the lot. No bathroom breaks, no walk me to the car, no debrief in the parking lot. We practiced the sentence that ends the meeting. We picked a place, a family diner that believes in coffee refills and witnesses. We picked a time early enough that daylight would be a co-conspirator. Jonah handed Lena a list of phrases that sound like invitations to confess without sounding like a trap. I'm trying to understand the timeline. Help me square the transfers with your promise. What did Marina say we'd do if the bank called? He underlined one more. And if he veers into apology without accounting, return him to math numbers, please. Elder wisdom reflection. People will tell you who they are when you ask for a receipt instead of a story. Stories try to make room for weather. Receipts describe the purchase. When the stakes are high, ask for the receipt. If love is involved, ask gently, but ask. The afternoon had the decency to pass. Detective Patel texted a photo from Madison, no faces. Just a street with a lake at the end and a squad car idling like punctuation. We are present. The caption read, "Present is all you need, sometimes." To keep escalation from dressing up as surprise. Hector, not to be outdone. Texted me a shot of the whiteboard now tidied into columns financial, physical, narrative. Under narrative, he'd written Thursday diner. 9 a.m., no improvisation. Joke 2 for my own nerves. I told the kettle we were staging a very polite heist, stealing back the plot. The kettle, chair of the kitchen ethics committee, whistled its approval. Evening found us rehearsing. We sat at the table with mugs and practiced what Lena would say when he tried to gaslight the timeline. You left at 1:44. My call log begins at 3:20. The camera fills the gap. We practice the non-answers. We're not discussing my feelings tonight. I won't be embarrassed in front of math. We practice the exit line I'll let you know through counsel, and the exit stand push chair. Take purse, walk. Hector played Caleb with unbearable accuracy charm, seasoned with grievance. Jonah timed the pauses like a conductor. I kept the metronome of breath in 4, out 6, somewhere between take 3 and take 4. Lena laughed a clean, surprised laugh that belonged to a woman who had just found the car keys in the pocket of her own coat. Quirky sidebar diners choose coffee cups on purpose. The thicker mugs hold heat longer so the refill conversation can stretch somewhere. A restaurant supply rep is quietly strengthening marriages and legal strategies with ceramic. The last text of the night came from an unknown number that introduced itself with entitlement. "We need to talk," it read. "You overreacted. I was protecting you." Lena looked at us. Jonah nodded. "Offer the meat," she typed. "Steady tomorrow, 9 a.m. Wayfarer Diner. 30 minutes. Bring the keys." He replied with a thumbs up and a sentence that tried to tattoo our brains. "Come alone." Lena didn't answer. We reattached the wire to its charger like a talisman returning to its altar. Joke 3. To place a small candle on the table if he orders pancakes. We take that as a confession. Hector raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because pancakes are optimism," I said. "And optimism is suspicious in men who stage logistics." Jonah snorted. "Noted. Waffles are the neutral plea." I tucked Lena into the guest room with the quilt that has survived louder nights than this. Set 2 mugs by the stove, and wrote in my notebook a single line to anchor the morning. We are not walking into a surprise. We are walking into a record. The house answered with its little pops of approval. Outside, the wind had run out of opinions. Inside, the paper stood up straight. The diner smelled like butter and decisions. We arrived early so the room could meet us first. The bell on the door did its small ceremony. The waitress with a comet tattoo nodded us toward a booth with sightlines worth tipping for. And Jonah slipped into a corner table with a newspaper he did not read. Hector took the far end of the counter where the pie case reflected everything without gossiping. I sat with Lena and practiced the breath we'd rehearsed in 4, out 6. Her hands were steady on the menu, steadier on the small purse that held her flip phone, and exactly 0 hope for improvisation. At 8:59, the bell chimed a different key. He arrived in the jacket I used to think meant provider, and now recognized as costume department. He saw me first, recalibrated, then pasted on the smile that sells apologies in bulk. "May," he said, as if we'd met at a garden party. "Lena." He slid into the booth and set down the keyring like an offering that expected applause. "You look tired," he told her. A sentence that tries to make concern out of criticism. Lena nodded once. 30 minutes, she said, not unkind, and tapped the face of her watch, which didn't need the help but deserved the theater. He blinked. The waitress arrived with water that made no promises. "Coffee," she asked. "For all of us," I said. "Because caffeine is a kind accomplice when you need sentences to finish without trembling." "Light joke 1, whispered to the sugar caddy. "Not the man, justice comes with refills." He started with a sigh that had trained for months. "I've been worried sick," he said. "You ran off in a storm." Lena held his eyes with a new math. "You left me at 1:44 a.m., she said. "The camera shows you leaving with the keys. The trucker shows at 2:39. I knocked on my mother's door at 3:20. We can talk feelings later. First, numbers." She placed a printout on the table dates. Amounts. "The mid-bank account ending 1442, 37,000, she said. "Memo lines, tuition, and investment. For whom?" He reached for stage 2 injury. "I was protecting you," he said. "You panic. You forget." He aimed the sentence at her like a small, dull weapon. She didn't flinch. "I remember enough to bring receipts," she said, and slid the second sheet across the title office hypothetical that wasn't. The trust name, the notary seal, Olive Lake Family Trust, Trustee Hale. Affidavit you had no interest. Logistics. The word was polite. The temperature wasn't. He looked at the keys, reconsidered their value, and tried the third act confession adjacent. "Marina needed a bridge loan," he said. "She's family." He said family like a password he hoped still worked. You agreed. That night we talked. Don't you remember? You said you trusted me to handle the big stuff. Lena breathed once. I remember you moving us closer to the highway for my commute. And I remember you moving my passwords into your pocket. I don't remember authorizing a cash purchase with my inheritance. Academic phrase of the day, Darvo, deny. Attack, reverse, victim, and offender. It's a pattern named by psychologists to describe what abusers do when confronted, deny the behavior. Attack the accuser's credibility, then claim to be the true victim of unfair accusations. Watching him cycle through the letters felt like recognizing a song you used to dance to in the dark and now only hear as noise. The waitress returned with coffee. He didn't thank her. Lena did. Here's how this goes, she said, voice low enough to fold a napkin on. You tell me where the money is now. You transfer it back. You return every key, every fob, every password. Then you call Detective Patel and say the word cooperate, like you learned it. Or we let the DA teach you vocabulary. He toyed with the spoon, auditioning for precise grief. You'd send me to jail, he murmured. We're married. She looked at her ring as if it were a receipt someone had left on the table. We were married, she said, until you chose logistics. She pushed a third paper his way, a printout from the recorder's office with the owl-stamped certification Dolores had banged into the margin. Your affidavit says you have nothing to do with the house. Good. That will make this cleaner. Quirky sidebar, stainless flatware at diners is heavier than you think because weight makes people believe in quality. Give a fork heft and pancakes taste more honest in negotiations. Truth needs that same small physics certified copies, timestamps, names that answer when called. Weight keeps flimsy from flying. He reached for indignation. You're recording me, he said suddenly, scanning Lena's collar like a man who'd seen 2 movies and learned the wrong lesson. She held his gaze and took a sip of coffee. We are in a public place, she said, and we are communicating facts. Beside the pie case. Hector scratched his cheek, our sign that the room was still ours. Jonah folded the newspaper at an angle that would have made Origami proud. He tried affection next dangerously convincing when you haven't slept in months. Lena, he said, softening his vowels. You know me, she breathed. That is why we're here, she answered, and turned the page to the bank's fraud form with the tiny boxes that love neat dates. Where's the money? He stared at the form like it was a new alphabet. Parked, he said finally. Short term, it moved. He named a financial app the Young Favor and a side account he thought she'd never see. Jonah texted me one word from the corner, Gotit. The wire in Lena's purse hummed its tiny approval. He tried to reclaim the script. Look, he said, I'll handle this. Give me a day. She shook her head. You've had many. We're at 0. She slid a pen across. Transfer now. The manager can notarize a statement if you like paper. She'd learned my love language. Elder wisdom reflection. When someone keeps you negotiating the future, bring them back to the present with something they can do in the next 5 minutes that has a confirmation number. Futures are where promises live. Present is where receipts do. He stared at the pen, then at the clock, then at the door as if it might open into a kinder version of this booth. He took out his phone. For one reckless second, I feared he would text Marina instead. He opened the app and began to move numbers like furniture. Lena watched, not hovering, just present witness instead of supplicant. He completed one transfer, then another. The phone dinged with small, lovely sounds. My own phone, linked as a watcher, vibrated. Incoming $20,000, it told me, as if a bird had returned to the correct branch. Then incoming $17,000. He exhaled. Not relieved, just disarmed. Happy, he said. Testing the word for usefulness. Satisfied, Lena said. Happiness doesn't transact. He slid the keys across. Passwords, she asked. He hesitated, then wrote carefully on the back of her receipt letters. Numbers? The usual arrogance. Jonah texted again. Screenshots done. The room felt heavier in the right way. He reached for the last lever he had. We can fix this, he said. We can see a counselor. I'll come home. Stop, she said. We're done here. If you want to fix something, call Detective Patel by noon and say you're bringing your statement. Say it exactly like that. She stood. I stood. He looked at me for rescue. I am a mother, but not of men who teach storms. The bill is yours, I said gently. Call it tuition. Light joke, too. To keep the blood from roaring, the waitress arrived with the check and asked, how was everything, I said. Adequately decisive. Coffee? Excellent. She winked. Refills fix more than people think. We walked out together, our pace, our door, our daylight. Hector peeled off at the corner. Jonah passed me. Phone already composing a message to Patel with the transfer confirmations and the recording file reference. At the car. Lena leaned on the roof and let her breath catch up. Then she smiled a small, ripening thing. He didn't order pancakes, she said. Neutral plea, I answered. Waffles. We laughed because we'd earned it. Light joke 3. Next time we pick a salad bar, the metaphors are cheaper. On the drive home, my phone buzzed. Patel Madison team confirms presence at lake address last night. No contact. Thanks for the audio. Very helpful. We'll be in touch. Shortly after, a new buzz. The bank fraud analyst provisional credit posted. Your organization is a gift. Gifts like this are made of ink and stubbornness. But I took the compliment as medicine. Back at the house. The kettle lobbied for chamomile. We sat at the table and wrote 2 lists, already done and next. Under already funds returned. Keys retrieved. Passwords in our pocket. Audio secured. Patel looped. Under next protective order consult, change phone number once more. Cancel any powers of attorney he may have forged. Draft a statement for Marina's board, if she has one. That says only what is necessary and all of what is necessary. Before we turned the page, I wrote a sentence to hold the shape of the day. We asked for numbers. Numbers answered. Then, softer beneath it. For the long nights that still visit, you are not forgetting, you are remembering accurately in a room that now prefers truth. By afternoon, the coffee had stopped trembling in our hands, and the day put on its work clothes. Detective Patel called first. Transfers documented. Audio received. He said. Voice like a stapler used with compassion. 2 tracks now, financial exploitation. Abandonment. Madison team is requesting the closing statement. Subpoena in motion. Also, I'd advise you to seek a temporary protective order today. Paper changes how doors behave. Paper had already changed how the diner behaved. I was becoming a believer. Hector drove us to the courthouse because he likes to park close to consequences. The lobby smelled faintly of floor wax and regret. A clerk with a sunflower pin walked Lena through the petition what happened, what was said, what we feared if distance collapsed. Lena spoke with that careful honesty courts respect no embroidery. Just dates that made sentences behave. The judge, brisk but human, granted a temporary order, no contact outside counsel, no approach within 200 feet, surrender any firearms within 24 hours, appear for hearing in 10 days. You've done the hard part, the judge said. Now let the paperwork do its share. Outside, the air felt tidier. We sat on a bench and watched a pigeon perform civic duties. Lena folded the order into her purse like a new hinge. "My hands aren't shaking," she said, startled. "They'll remember how." I told her, "But they'll also remember this." She smiled sideways. "First small joke. For the bench and the pigeon. We should send the court a thank you muffin. Blueberry. Witness grade." Hector snorted. "Label it Exhibit Yum." Back home. Jonah had built a small war room out of my dining table labeled folders. Sticky flags. A printout of the Wisconsin Trust with Olive Lake Family Trust circled like a bruise. "2 updates," he said, tapping the paper with a pencil that doesn't smudge when truth gets damp. "First, Patel's subpoena landed at the title office. We'll see the closing statement by morning. Second, my colleague dug up an old civil case in Iowa. Daniel Cross, likely our Caleb, lost a judgment 12 years ago to a former partner. The partner's affidavit reads like a deja vu recipe love. Logistics. A disappearing ledger. He slid a photocopy across. The signature D cross favored speed over conscience. At the bottom, a phone number we hadn't seen. "She might talk," Jonah said. "People like to tell the truth once they're believed." I dialed. The voice that answered belonged to a woman who had learned grace the way some learn carpentry measure twice. Cut once. Sand until splinters stop arguing. "You're not the first," she said gently. "You won't be the last," he starts with competence and ends with custody of passwords. Calendars. Then whatever you love that has a number, we traded timelines and warning bells. Press charges where you can, she advised. He fears courts more than confrontations. Courts make him hold still. Elder wisdom reflection. Confrontations shift weather. Courts shift maps. When patterns refuse to apologize, stop asking the sky to cooperate and find a cartographer. Get the paper that redrew the river. Not the poem about rain. There's room for both. But in a storm, you want the map. Patel texted again. We've notified him of the protective order. Service confirmed at 4:12 p.m. He knows the perimeter now. A minute later. My phone buzzed with the brittle theater of compliance. I would never. His text began, then detoured into vocabulary about misunderstanding and love. We didn't respond. Paper was speaking. We let it hold the microphone. Quirky sidebar banks and chords often prefer signatures in blue ink because scanners can distinguish them from black ink copies. It's not romance, it's contrast ratios, somewhere. A box of ballpoints is quietly supporting Truth's wardrobe department. I switched my pen, feeling slightly theatrical and entirely practical. Evening was for digital hygiene. Hector and Lena sat at the kitchen island while Jonah, half detective, half preschool teacher, walked us through the device audit. Bluetooth off unless dancing, he said. Location services only when maps are earning their keep. 2-factor authentication to a number he doesn't know. Preferably the landline that thinks it's still 1998. We replaced Lena's email recovery options, revoked sessions from devices with suspicious nicknames, and set up a new cloud account named after a flower no algorithm would guess. Small joke too. If the password were a pie, it would be unsliceable. Jonah approved. If the password were a pie, it would be illegal in 3 states. The title company produced a PDF at 7:03 p.m. closing statement. Wires in tidy rows, costs that pretended to be polite. There it was. $37,000 arriving in 2 doses from an account ending 1442, then a cashier's check in Marina's trust. Then a note about expedited recording that made Dolores' stamp feel like an accomplice to daylight. Jonah flagged the notary line. Same notary who stamped Caleb's affidavit, he said. We'll ask the Secretary of State to review her journal. Serial frauds often haunt the same desks. Academic phrase of the day. Escalation of commitment. The public argument that people throw more resources at a losing plan because they've already invested in it, hoping to prove their past selves right. Abusers bet on it that you'll stay because you've stayed. Pay because you've paid. Explain because you've explained. The cure is to grade the current moment, not the sunk cost. Today, we graded return the money, move the locks, let paper talk. By 9, we had a plan shaped like a clean table. Tomorrow, Patel would interview Marina under caution. The title company would produce the escrow file. The notary's journal would meet an auditor. Madison PD would knock on a door with lake views. We would meet a legal aid attorney to formalize the protective order and consider civil recovery. And this was Jonah's favorite part. We'd build a soft mirror for Caleb's next performance. Should he try a new script? He'll want control back, Jonah said. He'll try a grand gesture flowers. Tears. I've changed. If he attempts trespass, the order becomes arrest if he tries digital trespass. The audit becomes a new charge if he offers a payment plan. We ask for the first receipt. We ate late eggs and toast, courtroom cuisine, and talked with our mouths at half speed because fatigue had earned a voice. Lena was quiet in a way I hadn't seen since she was 12 and learning to braid her own hair focused, slightly fierce. I can breathe, she said around a bite. It's like the room found more oxygen. Third joke. Small and grateful. The fern is finally getting compliments it understands. We all glanced at the fern, which did look unusually pleased. Before bed, we opened a new folder, Civil, because order is courage wearing taps. I labeled subfolders Protective Order Served. Title closing, Notary Journal, Lake Madison PD, Bank Reversals. On the inside cover, I wrote a sentence to future us if you get tired. Look at what the paper did while you rested. Then I added another, smaller. To the version of me who wakes at 3 with the radio of worry playing too loud, the house is locked, the phone is quiet, the law is awake. Lena lingered by the sink, drying a mug with the serious patience of someone soldering a small bridge. Do you think he'll stop? She asked. I didn't lie. Not because we asked nicely, I said, but because the map changed. She nodded, folded the towel, and went to bed with the protective order tucked into the nightstand like a passport. Around midnight, the neighborhood practiced sleeping. I walked the perimeter of the house the way pilots walk planes with flashlights. Click, check, breathe. At the porch, I paused. The wind had no opinions left. Somewhere a train apologized for distance. I stood still and listened for the thud of my own heart, which sounded. Finally. Less like a door in a storm and more like a metronome set to, we're not done. But we're steady. I whispered the week's lesson into the quiet maps. Not weather. Paper. Not performance, and went inside to a bed that received me kindly, as if I'd returned from a long, necessary errand where, for once, everything was allowed to be exactly as serious as it felt. Wednesday woke up with a purposeful hush, the kind that likes a clean table and a plan. We had money back, locks changed, paper speaking in our stead. Now came the part Hector calls showing the fox the hen house he already picked, not to tempt, but to record. We would give Caleb, very likely Daniel and Marina, a mirror. A believable rumor that I was in failing health and had just received a quiet windfall from an old friend's estate, 800,000. Neatly tabbed, considering a trust. If they were done, the rumor would die in our kitchen. If they weren't, it would walk them straight into their own footprints. Jonah set the stage with the patience of a clockmaker. No improvisation, he said. Lowering a tray of props, a mock attorney letter on Carter and Ames' letterhead, Evans' ethical blessing secured. The text carefully non-actionable. A printed bank congratulations mailer you could receive for opening an account with too many zeros, graphic design by a friend with a guilty conscience. And 3 honeytoe tokens, fake document links, whose only job was to ping us if opened. In cybersecurity, Jonah explained, we plant Canary's data that should never be touched. If someone touches it, we know where to look. He scribbled email rules like charms when tapped. The tokens would text me. Hector. And Patel page opened. IP, time, curiosity recruited. We decided the rumor should travel a path they trusted Marina to Caleb to Lena, with my name placed like furniture in a room they thought they owned. Hector made the first move, a gentle call to a mutual acquaintance who owed him 2 snow shovels and a favor. May's not well, he said into the phone, voice pitched for ethical gray. Lawyers and such. She'll need help choosing advisors. You know anyone who's, proactive? We could almost hear the acquaintance nod. Marina's proactive, came the answer we were hoping for. I'll mention it. A rumor left the station precisely as scheduled. Quirky sidebar burner phones are not always the stars of intrigue. Sometimes the hero is an old-fashioned voicemail tree. People believe voicemails because the mistakes sound human coughs. Car doors. A dog chiming in with editorial remarks. Jonah had me leave one on my own machine. Deliberately audible if anyone happened to check it, Evan. It's May. We'll talk about that. Trust. I'm still thinking. My hands shake, send the papers in big print. We let the dog across the street bark his cameo, authenticity by neighbor. By lunch. The first honey token sang link opened. IP Lakeshore Realty Suite Wi-Fi. Jonah grinned without showing teeth. Hello, Marina. 10 minutes later, a second ping from a coffee shop 2 blocks from our old apartment. Hello, Caleb, Jonah said, writing both timestamps with glee disguised as handwriting. The third ping didn't come, which was its own comfort, if Lena had peeked. We would have had a talk about boundaries and curiosity being cousins who shouldn't share toothpaste. At 2. Marina called me directly, her voice wrapped in velvet and urgency. Miss Harrington, she cooed using the name only bills and bad actors employ. I heard you're navigating paperwork. I help families avoid predatory mistakes. I let a tremor into my sigh. I'm very tired, I said. My daughter is busy. The lawyer speaks. Quickly. Marina pounced politely. I could stop by, just to translate. No obligation. Perhaps tomorrow, I murmured. The mail said something about a trust. She volunteered to bring forms, which is like a magician offering to bring his own rabbit. Academic phrase of the day, entrapment doctrine. The public argument that the government may not induce a person to commit a crime they weren't predisposed to commit. People misapply it to stings like a talisman against consequence. Jonah drew the line for us with a pencil that had opinions we don't entice. We document. They already moved money, staged abandonment, forged proximity to power. Your windfall just shows whether the pattern is asleep or merely hungry. Patel approved the framework with the restraint of a man who enjoys outcomes more than speeches. Keep it civil, he said. Record where lawful, where one-party consent. If papers appear, don't sign. Photograph, then call. He arranged 2 plainclothes officers to be near my block tomorrow under the guise of lunch, which I appreciate because justice enjoys sandwiches. We rehearsed the scene with the same care we gave the diner. If Marina arrives waving forms, ask for her business card, the EIN of any trust, the name of any notary, and the sentence, I'll review with counsel, Jonah said. Record her pitch. If she mentions a temporary power of attorney, we're done, call Patel. Hector added the choreography door wide. Chairs near exits, timer visible, no beverages you didn't pour. If she suggests a drive, you are suddenly due at the clinic. Lena listened from the hall like a cat learning a new stare. I will not be in the room, she said. But my spine will be,
I kissed her knuckles. Perfect.
We went further. Evan prepared a real letter addressed to me, stamped and sealed. That said almost nothing while looking official. We look forward to discussing your estate planning needs so Marina could see it and think she had a rival. The honey tokens were referenced in that letter by harmless-looking short links if photographed and texted. They'd sing again. Paper as doorbell. Light joke 1. To oxygenate my nerves, I told the kettle we were not staging a play. We were setting out polite chairs and watching who tried to rearrange them. The kettle, a veteran of many tactful wars, approved with a steady hum. At 5, the second act began. Caleb texted Lena, "I heard about your mom. She needs a man who can handle the big stuff. We should go as a couple. Family is protection." Lena typed with hands that no longer shook, "I'll bring forms to my attorney when I have them." He wrote back a sentence that wanted to be comfort and landed as control. "Don't delay, predator circle." Lena set the phone down like a damp match. "Projection," she said dryly. We all nodded, proud of her graduate-level course in not lighting herself on fire. Elder wisdom reflection. Some boundaries are passwords. Some are smoke alarms. One keeps intruders out, the other wakes you up when your own hope starts burning the kitchen. If you can't decide which you need, install both, then test them monthly with a friend who laughs kindly when the beep is too loud. Evening slid in with the decency of a librarian. I chopped carrots because the body likes evidence of dinner even when the brain is doing legal algebra. Jonah printed a fresh stack of do not sign sticky notes and laid them beside my coaster like talismans. Hector oiled the front door's hinge so the open and close would be audible without drama. Soundtracks matter. Light joke 2. If this were a movie, this is where the composer adds bassoons. We all pretended to hear them. At 8, my landline rang, caller ID, Lakeshore Realty, Marina, again. Just confirming. Would 10:30 a.m. suit 10:45? I countered. To own the minutes. She accepted, after we hung up. The third honey token finally chirped the letter link, open from her office again. Jonah tapped the time. "They're making a folder," he said. "Let's put something useful in it." He added one more canary, a PDF titled Draft Ploy Temporary Empty of Signature Lines, full of watermarks that would print the word copy across her manicure if she tried to walk it into a notary. We're not petty, we're precise.
We ended the night with a quiet checklist that felt like prayer done with pens. Recorder uncharged, landline working, yes. Spare phone hidden, yes. Neighbors in the loop, Alma would be sweeping at 10:40 sharp. Nothing escapes Alma and her broom. Officers briefed Patel texted a thumbs up and a sandwich emoji, which is how serious men practice whimsy. Lena's job away from the house, at the library, with Eli's lighthouse drawing in her bag, because anchors belong in pockets on days like this. Light joke 3, small and deserved. I wrote wardrobe cardigan with moral authority on the list. Hector approved. And shoes with quick exits. I picked flats that know the floor plan. Before sleep, I wrote one line for future me to find if the night tried its old tricks. We are not bait. We are boundary with witnesses. Under it, in smaller letters, the truth. I keep relearning. If someone reaches for your pen, they're reaching for your life. Keep the pen. Offer tea. The house answered with its familiar pops of respect. The ocean, out beyond thought, kept its pulse. Tomorrow. A bell would ring. A woman would step through a blue door with a folder. We would be ready. Not to trap, but to write down, calmly, what tried to happen. At 10:43 a.m., the hinge sang the note. Hector had tuned one polite creak. No drama. I opened the blue door to find Marina framed like a brochure camel coat. Leather portfolio. Smile bright enough to illuminate fine print, but not to read it aloud. Behind her. Alma swept the shared walk with the unhurried authority of a lighthouse custodian. Across the street.
2 plain sedans pretended to be scenery. Our little orchestra had tuned. "Miss Harrington," Marina said, using the name for billing and bad ideas. "Thank you for seeing me on short notice." I stepped back. Wide door, visible clock, 10:45 to 11:15, I said gently. I fade after that. Tea light joke 1, soft as steam. My stamina is set by a very strict union. She laughed the laugh of a woman who invoices by the hour and sat where the recorder liked the acoustics. She placed her card on the table, First Lakeshore Realty. Marina Hale and the portfolio, second. "I help families simplify," she said, an anthem sung sweetly. "When health is changing. Consolidating authority prevents predatory interference." Caleb's text from last night echoed the phrase as if they shared a hymnal. "Predators do circle," I agreed, "especially when they smell paper." Her smile held. "Exactly." She unfolded a stack, a printed family trust template with blanks as hopeful as baby names. A limited durable power of attorney temporary with the word temporary in a font that wanted me to forgive it. A notary acknowledgement form already filled suspiciously with today's date and a name I recognized from the late closing. All standard. She cooed. "You can list your daughter as co-agent with her husband, as alternate keeps it in the family." She said family like a key that should open all doors. I asked, touching the trust page. "And the notary's commission number." She hesitated 1 beat too long, then slid the notary line closer as if proximity could become propriety. I wrote the commission number in my notebook and circled it. A ring around a rumor, and this temporary power. I continued. "How long is temporary 90 days? Renewable," she said brightly. "Just while you rest, they can sign checks, communicate with doctors, move things to safety. Move things to safety." The words wore slippers. The floor felt oiled. Academic phrase of the day, default effect. The public argument that people tend to accept the pre-filled choice because inertia feels like wisdom. Predatory paperwork weaponizes that bias, blank lines pre-labeled, boxes pre-checked, dates pre-printed, a pen placed just so. The counterspell is slowness. Read every verb. Ask who benefits if you get sleepy. "Let's translate," I said, and slid her trust template beside my teacup. "This would let agents retitle assets into the trust you draft, under your guidance, according to terms you propose. With your approval," she beamed, "always." I turned the power of attorney page. "And this would let someone else act as me in financial and medical matters today. Only to protect you," she said. Practicing the soft landing. I lifted my eyes. Protection requires permission. That's why the pen is in my hand. She redirected. "Your lawyer, Evan, sometimes overcomplicates. We keep it simple. Evan likes receipts," I said. "Simplicity should not outpace evidence." I tapped the notary line. "Isn't this the same notary who stamped an affidavit for a lake purchase last week?" Her poise flickered. "We use who's available," she said. "We're very busy." "Busy is not an alibi," I murmured. Quirky sidebar pens that click loudly improve consent. Studies don't say this. Kitchens do. A decisive click buys 2 seconds of sound during which your brain can catch its breath and your hand can remember whose body it serves. I clicked mine like a metronome for caution. "How did you hear I was planning anything?" I asked, the way a grandmother asks about a pie recipe she knows by heart. "Small town," she said. "Friends help friends." Which friend? Oh, around. She pressed the temporary POA toward my elbow. "We can get this notarized now. My notary is on call. Across state lines," I asked. "In my living room." She tried a different chord. "If your hands shake, I can guide you." My hands did not shake. "No need," I said. "They've learned new manners." Outside. Alma's broom paused. One sedan door thunked softly. The clock moved its small hand like a witness lifting a finger. Marina adjusted the plan. "Or we can proceed gradually," she said. sliding a second version of the POA where the agent line already contained a name, Lena Forrester. With a second line, Caleb Forrester, alternate. The ink had the confidence of a pen that assumed my compliance. Who filled this, I asked. Just a draft, she said smoothly, to save time. Elder wisdom reflection. Anyone offering to save you time with a signature you haven't awarded is not saving you time. They are trying to spend your future. Time saved on the wrong day turns into years lost in the right court. Take the slow hour, keep the intact decade. I lifted the page with 2 fingers like evidence in a drama and placed it on a separate stack labeled, "Do not sign." "We'll let my counsel review," I said. "We can schedule a signing at the courthouse if anything survives sunlight." Her smile thinned. "Sometimes delay invites interference," she warned, making interference sound like it wore someone else's shoes. "Delay invites clarity," I said. She tried one more door. "We can keep Caleb completely out of it," she said quickly. "List him nowhere. List me as trustee until your daughter is ready. No family conflict." Her mouth made me sound like mother. "You are not my family," I said gently. "My family shows up with soup and leaves with boxes, not forms." Her phone lit perhaps a text perched between lake and man. She masked it with a sip of water. "Forgive me, this is all rather complex for a Thursday." "It's Wednesday," I said. Because it was. And because calendars are small truth serums. She blinked. "Oh." She began to repack. Movements tidy, voice calm. "I'll email clean PDFs for your lawyer," she said. The honey token in Evan's mock letter waited like a bird on a fence. "Please do," I said. "Large print." She nodded, rehearsed kindness back on her face. "You're wise to be cautious," she said. Rising. "Predators really do circle." "Some prefer rectangles," I said, tapping the portfolio. "They fold nicely." As she reached the door, a soft knock answered from the other side courtesy. Not intrusion. Detective Patel stood there without theater. Badge kept quiet. "Miss Hale," he said, with professional sunshine. "Could we borrow 10 minutes? We have a few questions for a financial exploitation inquiry." He didn't enter. He invited. Marina's eyes did a quick calculus flee. Fight, confess. Charm then chose poise. "Of course," she said. "Always happy to help." She stepped onto the porch. Alma swept once, twice, a slow benediction. Jonah exhaled from the hall and held up his phone. 3 pings. Marina had already opened all 3 honey links from her office at 8:13. The coffee shop at 12:27. And now, helpfully, from my Wi-Fi at 10:59. Curiosity, recruited, he whispered. Hector texted a photo from the street Marina's car. Played crisp, timestamp kind. The orchestra played quietly on. Light joke too. To ease my sternum, I told the kettle we had just hosted the world's most boring magic show, no rabbits. Just forms that failed to multiply. The kettle answered with applause in steam. 20 minutes later. Patel returned with a neutral thank you and a promise of next steps. Marina left with a business card that had consequences baked in. I kept her card with trustees scribbled where motives live. My landline rang within 10 minutes, Caleb, voice pitched to urgent helpfulness. "I hear you met with Marina," he said. "I can drive you to the bank. We'll take care of it. I'll be proceeding with counsel," I said, and set the receiver down like a book I had finished. By noon, Evan had the scans. By 12:08, the honey token in the draft POA temporary whispered its final ping. Jonah's thumbs flew. "Forwarded to Patel in the notary board," he said. "Journal will be interesting." It was. At 2. Patel called the notary had admitted pre-filling acknowledgments to streamline for busy clients, a sin both common and useful to prosecutors. "We're not charging her today," he said. But our lakefront is no longer an island. Quirky sidebar. Many states require notaries to record the signer's identification type and number in a bound journal, not on loose sheets. The bound part matters. Tamper, evident pages turn memory into paper with a spine. If a notary's journal looks like confetti, skepticism is due. Afternoon calmed itself. I texted Lena a photo of the POA with our do not sign sticker glowing like a warning buoy. She responded with Eli's lighthouse drawing and a note beam upgraded. Hector replaced the outside bulb with one more stubborn than weather. Jonah packed his tools like a stagehand after a matinee. Tomorrow, he said. We finished the Wisconsin arc. Then we let the consequence machine hum. Elder wisdom, addendum today, earned 2 when a stranger brings urgency to your kitchen. Measure their speed against your pulse. If you can hear your heartbeat in your ears, the only paper you should sign is a grocery list. Light Joke 3, End of Day Edition. I labeled a new jar in Michael's script Forms That Tried It and slid the pre-filled POA inside. Hole punched and harmless. The jar looked pleased with its purpose. Before sleep, I wrote one line in the notebook we did not bait. We beckoned the truth and recorded who answered. Under it. In smaller letters for the 3 a.m. version of me, the door is locked. The pen is yours. The clock is honest. Morning put on its courthouse shoes. Patel called at 8:30 with that paper-sober tone I've started to trust. Title company produced the escrow file. The notary journal is creative, he said. Madison PD is knocking with us on a joint interview this afternoon. You don't need to travel. Keep your phone nearby. Not traveling is my favorite logistical victory. Jonah arrived with pastries that looked like reasonable optimism and a printed flowchart labeled Wisconsin Arc Arrows Only. Hector brewed coffee that tasted like someone had stapled confidence to a bean. Lena stood by the window, steady as a metronome. Whatever happens, she said. We don't explain feelings to people who earn subpoenas. Agreed. At 10, Patel looped us onto a speaker line with a detective in Madison whose voice sounded like lake weather clear, then colder. They were at a tidy gray house with a porch that pretended to be innocent. We're just chatting, the lake voice said. Miss Hale has arrived. Mr. Forrester is inside. We listened to the professional choreography knock. Badges. The shuffled silence of surprise-wearing cologne. Then came sentences that love microphones. Yes. That's my signature. No, I didn't read every page. It was just temporary, Patel murmured. There it is. Like a birder spotting a rare confession. The escrow file proved what paper was already whispering 2 transfers, $20,000 and $17,000 from Lena's account. A cashier's check to the Olive Lake Family Trust. A notary acknowledgement pre-printed for convenience, and an email from Marina's office encouraging expedited recording due to health concerns. Health concerns had become their favorite costume. Academic phrase of the day, pattern evidence, also called other acts evidence. The public argument that repeated methods can become proof of intent, not coincidence. Courts debate when to admit it. Defense attorneys call it prejudicial. Prosecutors call it clarifying. In kitchens like mine, we call it Tuesday, do it the same way 3 times. And the pattern owns its name. At noon, paper turned to consequence. Patel's voice softened and sharpened at once. Mr. Forrester, he said the name as if it were on loan. You're being detained for questioning on financial exploitation and abandonment. And you are served with a temporary protective order. Please keep your hands visible. A chair scraped. Someone said, "This is ridiculous," which is how schemes audition for empathy when math arrives. Miss Hale, the lake voice added. You're not under arrest, but you are now a material witness. Please bring your notary friend's contact information. The porch stopped pretending. Lena exhaled like a person who had been misquoting her lungs for a year. Hector squeezed her shoulder with the gentleness retired cops reserve for morning's justice remembers its manners. Jonah wrote times. Names, badge numbers, the choreography of afterward. We won't gloat, I said out loud to the table. And meant it. Relief is not a sport. Quirky sidebar, fresh Wisconsin cheese curds squeak because of long protein strands rubbing your teeth, and edible violin. By afternoon. The squeak fades. Truth behaves similarly. It squeaks when it's freshest. Paper catches the squeak, so it can be replayed later. When memory is less musical. Today. The audio from the diner and the pings from the honey link squeaked like a chorus line. By 2. Patel was at our door with copies the escrow statement, the notary's journal excerpt, a list of seized devices, and a form for Lena to sign acknowledging return of funds confirmed. This is not the end, he said, but it's the end of improvisation. From here on, everything has a case number. He looked at Lena. You did everything right. She nodded. Not triumphant, just present. I'd like to go for a walk, she said, as if her legs had finally been invited back into the day. Elder wisdom reflection when the storm breaks. Don't sprint into the sunshine like you owe the weather gratitude. Walk. Let your eyes recalibrate. Drink water. Touch a doorknob. You are not late to peace. Peace keeps no appointment book. We took the long block, the one with porches that practice friendliness. Alma waved her broom like a benevolent scepter. You look lighter, she said. Paper did some dishes, I answered. Lena laughed. Small and honest. Jonah lagged to take a call. When he caught up, he had the grin of a man whose pencil had earned the right to rest. Civil judgment from Iowa forwarded to the ADA, he said. Pattern evidence gets invited to the party. Back home, we fed the document pile. Patel's report noted a forged draft POA discovered in a folder at the lake house our temporary friend. This time with a shaky signature that tried to borrow Lena's name. My stomach did the slow flip of a trapeze artist who wants to retire. It never got notarized, Patel added. But it helps the story. Stories love consistency. Courtrooms love exhibits. Hector suggested we call the shelter advocate Patel had recommended. Not because Lena needed immediate housing, but because advocates know the undermaps, which clerk stamps what without drama, which judge keeps a tight calendar, which prosecutor has seen too many versions of this and doesn't ask the wrong questions. The advocate. A woman named Bree with eyebrows that could lift small cars. Calendared us for the hearing and outlined the day of rules. Arrive early. Sit aisle. Bring a support person. Answer only what's asked. Pack a granola bar. Justice skips lunch. Light joke 1. To keep the room from fogging, we should embroider that on courthouse pillows. Eat. Don't overshare. Hector said he'd buy 2. By late afternoon, the bank portal wore its own relief, provisional credit, converted to permanent. Fraud claims closed in our favor. New alerts tested and smug. I printed the final notice and slipped it into the folder labeled Bank Reversals. Then I wrote a single line on the tab with the good pen. We asked for numbers. Numbers stood up straight. It felt like laminating a sigh. A voicemail arrived from Marina, saturated in contrition. I had no idea. She said to the machine that cannot nod, I was only trying to help. Caleb said, we didn't return the call. Patel would. Help is a verb that should survive sunlight if it wilts when the badge appears. It needs a new name. Academic postscript in practice. Jonas emailed Patel a short memo mapping the method of operation rest stop abandonment, password consolidation, third-party notary, temporary POA, trust with bland name, quick recording, concern language. If he runs this playbook elsewhere, Jonah wrote. Victims will recognize the outline. Sometimes the kindest thing paper can do is teach someone you'll never meet where to look first. Evening arrived with its shoulders down. I cooked something forgiving pasta that forgave imprecise boiling, and we ate like people who discovered their appetite in the pocket of a jacket they almost donated. Eli called to report that his lighthouse had earned a star sticker for most determined beam. Lena held the phone on speaker and smiled at the sound of small certainty. "We're visiting the rest stop," she told him, "to thank a trucker." "Good," he said. "Heroes like snacks. We promised snacks." Light joke 2. Table edition. I raised my glass of water and said, "To legal pads, the unsung quilts of justice." Hector clinked with coffee. And to staplers, the handcuffs of paperwork. We are a household of poets, but only by accident. After dishes. We laid out tomorrow's list. Call legal aid about the permanent order. Draft a victim impact statement that uses nouns and dates, not storms. Check in with Patel about charging decisions. Mail a note to Dolores with the owl cardigan. Thank you for the stamp that behaved like daylight. Jonah drew a final arrow on his flowchart and wrote, with unusual flourish, consequence, engine humming. Light joke 3, bedtime variety. I labeled a jar cheese curds. Legal and dropped in a squeaky rubber band to remind myself the sound will fade, but the protein and the proof remains. Lena rolled her eyes and kissed my cheek. "You're impossible," she said. "Traditionally," I replied. Before sleep, I wrote a small paragraph to the 3 a.m. version of me who worries about everything that hasn't yet broken. We are not waiting for the other shoe. We collected it, photographed it, and handed it to someone who writes down shoes for a living. Our door is locked. Our names are ours. Tomorrow we will drive to Halter Creek with a box of cookies and a thank you that fits into 2 sentences. The house popped its old, approving bones. Outside, the wind had no new opinions. Inside, the metronome of a life put itself back on the right beat and promised to keep time until morning decided to be kind again. We drove out just after dawn with a shoebox of cookies and a note that had practiced being simple. Halter Creek looked different without the blizzard, same fluorescent honesty, same bulletin board. But the air had learned to unclench. The manager, Rio, waved us through the staff door like we were relatives of the coffee machine. The trucker who'd handed hot chocolate at 2:39 a.m. turned out to be a man named Chet, with 4 arms like useful bridges and a voice that kept vowels warm. He accepted the cookies with the bashful pride of a hero who prefers verbs to speeches. "Didn't do much," he said. "You did enough," Lena answered. And those 3 words seemed to clock out a year of unpaid overtime in her body. We stood by the window, where months ago tire treads had erased their apologies into snow, and watched the parking lot practice boring, which is the most beautiful thing a parking lot can do. I pressed the note into Rio's hand. "For archives," it said, "because places deserve memory, too." On our way out, we tacked a small index card to the bulletin board beneath found gloves. With permission, thank you. 2:39 a.m., trucker. You kept a person whole. Back home, Consequence kept its calendar. Patel called charges, filed financial exploitation, attempted theft by deceit, misdemeanor abandonment upgraded to felony because of the weather advisory, arraignment tomorrow. Protective order continued. Marina would testify as a material witness. The notary's journal was now a cautionary tale in a training the state would require. Jonah's flowchart retired from arrows to checks. Hector made a pot of coffee that tasted like a stamp. At noon, legal aid helped Lena tidy her statement for court, dates and doors. Bree coached over speakerphone. When he left, when the money moved. What changed after paper arrived? Judges prefer nouns that sit still. Lena read it once, then again, voice level. Spine practiced. When she finished, she looked taller by a single, priceless millimeter. Quirky sidebar courtrooms are colder on purpose, thermostat set, so alertness wins over drowsy bravado. And to keep stenography machines from sweating, bring a sweater even if you're brave. We packed 2, one for me. One for the version of Lena who sometimes runs ahead and forgets she owns shoulders. We did ordinary things in the afternoon because ordinary is the body's favorite treaty. Alma and I clipped grocery coupons nobody truly needs, but everyone enjoys honoring. Hector tightened the hinge that sings when justice visits. Jonah taught my printer to behave like a small, dutiful employee. Eli FaceTimed after school to show us a shoebox diorama of a lighthouse and a crab. The crab has boundaries, he announced solemnly. The lighthouse has batteries. That's governance, I said. Light joke one, and also my retirement plan. Evening placed its dishes on the horizon. We ate pasta and talked about the morning like it was a well-marked trail we planned to walk. Not a battlefield. I'm not afraid of the room, Lena said quietly. I'm afraid of seeing his face and remembering the choreography. We're changing the music, I said. You'll speak into microphones, not memories. She nodded and slid her hand into mine under the table, the way a child does when both are learning a new street. Academic phrase of the day, procedural justice, the public argument that people are more likely to accept outcomes, even unfavorable ones, if the process feels fair, transparent, and respectful. In our kitchen version, that means chairs with backs, clocks you can see, names pronounced correctly, and a judge who looks you in the eyes when asking a question. Bree promised this courtroom was good at procedure. I reminded Lena that we had already practiced fairness on ourselves, which is often the hardest jurisdiction. We slept, imperfectly, but enough. Morning brought courthouse shoes and a line that moved like a bar of slow music, inside. The room had the serious smell of carpet and consequence. We took the aisle seats Bree recommended. Jonah sat 2 rows back. A quiet lighthouse. Hector hovered at the end like a punctuation mark that knows when to appear. When our case was called, Lena stood and read her page of nouns and doors with a voice that had retired from auditioning. The judge, brisk but human, listened the way paper hopes to be read. Opposite us, Caleb, maybe Daniel, wore a suit that could not disguise its borrowed spine. He attempted a speech. His attorney attempted a tone. The judge preferred dates. When it was over, the order became permanent for a year, with extensions probable. Restitution was docketed. The DA, interested in patterns, murmured about plea talks that include training wheels for remorse classes, monitoring, a ban on creative banking. Marina's name moved from portfolio to subpoena to a witness list that sounded like a weather report learning accountability. We didn't cheer, we didn't crow, we walked outside into weather that minded its business and let the sky keep its privacy. Elder wisdom reflection. Closure isn't a door slamming, it's a series of hinges learning to move without noise. You oil them, open and shut them in daylight, and choose who gets keys. Some days, the door will still misbehave. That's fine. You're a landlord now. Keep the screwdriver where you can reach it. We celebrated. Not with champagne, but with the laziest victory on earth, clean sheets and a nap after. Lena and I sat at the little desk and opened a new, empty folder labeled New Map. Into it, we slid nothing legal, just pages for things that wanted to grow now that the garden wasn't being rearranged at night. Lena wrote Community College Spring Course Catalog. I wrote Truck Stop Thank You Fund coffee cards for people who hand courage at 2:39 a.m. Eli's lighthouse drawing upgraded to include a tiny courthouse, with a smile went on the inside cover as our new, ridiculous coat of arms. We drove one more time to Halter Creek at sunset and set a small brown box on the counter for Chet and his comrades in quiet heroism coffee cards. Our note, and a picture of a shoebox lighthouse drawn by a kid who believes batteries and boundaries go together. Rio wedged the box beside the lost gloves like it had always belonged there. "You're making a habit of returning," she said. Good habit, I replied. Light joke 2. It's either this or I start a podcast about notarization. She gagged theatrically. Cookies, please. At home. We performed a ceremony that would look silly to anyone who hasn't survived paperwork. We stood by the file crate and, with due gravity, moved the fraud active folder to fraud resolved. We kept copies, because history likes receipts. But the spine of the binder loosened, as if it had exhaled. Jonah placed the flowchart labeled Consequence Engine Humming on top like a flag whose job was done. Hector stuck a gold star on the whiteboard in the square that said Hearing. Alma swept the front walk with a flourish that might have been choreography if brooms believed in applause. Quirky fact to tuck into your pocket. The first modern paperclips were called gem clips, not because of diamonds, but because of the manufacturer's brand. People slipped them onto lapels in occupied Norway as a silent resistance symbol, holding things together without making holes. I thought of that tonight, paperclipping Eli's newest lighthouse to the inside of the new map folder. Quiet solidarity holds better than pins. We closed the day with tea and 3 short toasts, light joke 3 to lock cylinders that mind their elders, to granola bars that outlast court calendars, and to kettles that function as kitchen therapists, out of network. Laughter did its familiar, undervalued work. Then I wrote the last entry for this notebook, the one that began with a blizzard and woke us up. We are not the storm. We are the people who got home in it. Learned to label the drawers, thanked the trucker, changed the lock, and kept the pen. Tonight, the house is quiet in the way a page is quiet just before a new chapter. The kettle breathes a small ribbon of steam. The lock remembers its new manners. And on the table, a stack of papers rests like a tamed weather report. Names in order. Dates that stay where they're placed. Signatures that ask nothing more from us. We have walked a long corridor from that storm-lit knock hands, trembling. Breath counting itself brave to the slow. Even hallway of consequence. Past the rest stop with fluorescent mercy. Past the diner where numbers spoke more clearly than apologies. Past the lake house with its borrowed spine. Past the office where forms tried to hurry and were asked to sit gently and wait their turn. What remains is smaller and kinder. A routine that prefers warm socks and lists with soft edges. A jar for forms that tried it. A whiteboard with gold stars where hearings used to throb. A phone that rings only for people who bring soup and leave with boxes. And, threaded through all of it, a beam drawn by a child who understands that lighthouses use batteries and boundaries at the very same time. We learned the grammar of paper, the humble verbs that hold file, stamp, serve, return, and we learned, too. That calm is not the absence of storm, but the practiced presence of witnesses. A neighbor with a broom, a nurse with a lighthouse face, a detective with a sandwich and a case number, a mother who kept the pen. So we fold the day like a clean sheet. Let it settle over the bed of what was. Breathe in for 4, breathe out for 6, and tell the night, without hurry, that we are home, we are accounted for, and we will meet tomorrow at the ordinary table where tea cools slowly and no one rearranges anything without asking first.